What if I told you that laziness doesn't actually exist? Well, I won't be that bold because I don't think that that's entirely true, but I do think a good 90% of the laziness that we see within ourselves or in other people is not really laziness, and it's actually something deeper. The real truth is that most of the time, you're not lazy. Laziness is just a cover-up for something else, and until you can bring awareness to what that something else is, you will always struggle. Hey friends, welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Jillz and I help women step into their power and become their best selves. So if that's something you want to do, you should subscribe and stick around. I'm in my living room today because I have the most amazing windows here and it's just the most perfect fall rainy day, so I want to enjoy it. Now, productivity is everything in today's world. Just search Google or YouTube and you will get an infinite amount of results on how to be more productive, how to get more done, how to not be lazy. But what if we're thinking about it all wrong? What if the biggest thing that holds a lot of people back and something that we constantly shame ourselves for, you know, us being lazy, is not really the problem? As we all know, you will never find an actual solution to a problem until you can understand the real root of an issue. So when it comes to being lazy, you can try to implement certain habits, you can try to be more disciplined, and that might help a little bit, it might work temporarily, but it'll only get you so far because you're not digging deep enough. That's because laziness is oftentimes just a symptom for a deeper issue. It's not inherently who we are. It's not inherently who we desire to be. You're not lazy, and I think it's really important for you to get that idea in your head. There are 3 big reasons why people act lazy. So in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what those 3 reasons are and how to move past it, because understanding your laziness is your superpower, and it is the only actual way to grow. So the first reason why we might behave in a lazy way is fear. It's fear. And I know that might sound silly if you haven't thought about it that way before, but fear paralyzes us. You know, being afraid of failure, afraid of not satisfying our own expectations, afraid of not satisfying others' expectations, afraid we don't have what it takes, afraid of how we might feel, or afraid something might cause us hurt or pain. And so we stay stuck, we freeze, we don't do anything, because in that moment at least, not doing anything feels safer than doing what it is you're supposed to do. Let me give you an example from my own life, just because I feel like all of this is best understood with examples. I do YouTube, I make videos, right? And I love it. I find it very fulfilling and I try to be pretty consistent with it. But of course, I'm human. Sometimes there are moments where I'm lazy or I procrastinate and I put it off. But when I dig deeper into where that lazy feeling is coming from, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it's from fear. What if I can't figure out what to talk about? What if my video ends up being terrible? What if it sucks? Like, what if my video just totally sucks? I'm putting it out there for everyone to see. What if my message doesn't come across the way I want it to? What if I don't have any value to add? What if I post a video and I get hundreds of comments like, "This was a complete waste of my time"? And the way that I say that makes it sound like YouTube is this stressful thing and I'm anxious and insecure. I'm not. I love what I do and I'm comfortable putting myself and my thoughts out on the internet for people to see. But there's at least a tiny fear of failure that lives within everyone. As humans, we are programmed to see where things might go wrong. It's just a protection mechanism we have. It's in our DNA. And I can absolutely love what I do, feel so fulfilled by it, and be pretty dang confident, and still from time to time see where things could go wrong for me or where I might fail. And it's fears like this that keep us stuck, that keep me on the couch on my phone instead of writing down my video outline in my notebook, or that keep you watching TV instead of working on that big presentation. Fear makes us want to avoid what we're afraid of, so we don't get hurt. It's why someone might put off applying for a new job even though they really want one. They don't want to get rejected. They fear rejection. And especially after putting in all that work, perfecting a resume, writing a cover letter, going in for multiple interviews, and then them being like, "Nah, we don't want you," that's probably not going to feel very good. It's why someone might put off building a profile for a dating app. What if nobody swipes on me? What if it's only weirdos who are interested in me? Or what if I start that new business that I've been dreaming of and it completely fails? What will I think of myself? What will other people think of me? What if I start working out to get in shape and I can't do it? What if I can't lose the weight and I can't stick to it? Or what if working out is just too hard and I fail at it? Remember that anything that's unfamiliar is gonna feel a little bit uncomfortable at first, and it's gonna trigger a fear response. It could even be something as simple as a new diet or workout routine. Procrastination and laziness is simply just one coping mechanism to avoid facing fear. Our mind tells us that it's easier to do nothing than to do that something and potentially deal with the hurt or or pain that could accompany that. But here's the key. If you bring awareness to this and you realize that your laziness is actually just coming from fear, then instead of working on the laziness piece and working on building discipline and habits, when you work past the fear itself, the laziness is no longer an issue. Habits and discipline are no longer something you need. But how do you work past these fears? Well, your fears are not just gonna magically fly away overnight. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of these fears are just natural human instincts to keep us safe, and they're entirely normal. It's more about bringing these fears to light and learning to be at peace with them. There's a really good saying, you've probably heard of it, feel the fear and do it anyways. Sometimes we just have to bring awareness to what's stopping us so we can sit back and say, okay, I see that, I recognize that, but I'm gonna choose to take action anyway. It's about making peace with your fear. It's about acknowledging your natural instincts to want to avoid something, but then leaning into it instead. It's about accepting the possibility that painful events or feelings might come into your life and remembering that that is a part of the human experience and you'll get through it like you always do, and it's not something that should stop you. Now, another reason why we procrastinate and why we get lazy is because we don't want to do it. I know that sounds like the actual definition of laziness, but hear me out for a second. This isn't gonna make sense in every scenario, but what if the reason that you don't want to do something and the reason that you have so much resistance to something is because you're not meant to be doing it? What if instead of laziness, it's actually your intuition telling you something, telling you that you're not spending time on the right things? Let me give you an example to make it more clear. So let's say that you work a job in marketing and you struggle so much to get yourself to work. You're always procrastinating till the last minute, you have absolutely no motivation, and you are just lazy at your job. You could just be lazy, or it could be a sign. Maybe it's not the right job for you. Maybe it's not what you're supposed to be doing. Maybe it's not your path. Maybe it's finally time to start building that interior design company that you have dreamed about since forever. In this situation, the laziness is not really the problem. The problem is that you're doing something that's not aligned with you. Or let me give you another example. Let's say you want to get really fit and athletic. So you've been waking up every morning and running long distances, you know, like 6-7 miles, and maybe you're training for a half marathon or something like that. But you find that you're really unmotivated. You have to claw yourself out of bed every morning to go work out. You find yourself skipping all these runs and you get really mad at yourself for it and you shame yourself for being lazy. Maybe you're just lazy, or maybe you literally hate running and you only started running because you thought that's what you should do, or that's what you see all the fit people do, when really all you want to do is go to bar and dance classes. Maybe you're just doing the entirely wrong workout for you. Maybe you're not meant to be a runner. Maybe you're meant to be a dancer. We all have our own natural talents, our own natural inclinations, and our own path. And I think sometimes our laziness actually helps to guide us in the right direction. If you try to get me to read a book on like law or politics, my goodness, I don't think that I will ever finish that book. I will procrastinate and I will seem lazy. But if you tell me to read a self-development book or like a psychology book or something like that, I'll be done tomorrow. If you try to get me to go to the gym every day and lift weights, I'm probably gonna come off as lazy because I'm definitely not gonna show up every day, that's for sure. But if you tell me to go to a dance class every day, I will happily show up until I'm physically so sore that I can't. Sometimes what we see as laziness is actually just a little nudge of redirection. And if we dig deeper into this and bring awareness to it, we can start living a much more aligned and fulfilling life. The third reason you act lazy and don't get stuff done is because you're exhausted. You're not lazy, you're just exhausted. And there's a big difference. There's an interesting article I read, I'll link it below just in case you want to read it, but it basically talks about how, quote, modern humans are weirdly workaholic, and how for the past, 300,000 years, we've actually lived much more leisurely lives, except for the past few hundred years, and especially since the Industrial Revolution came around. The point is that we aren't meant to be workhorses. Like I mentioned in the beginning, our society is obsessed with productivity and output, so much so that our idea of what a healthy amount of work looks like is misconstrued. Productivity and output is not a bad thing. It's a great thing, as long as it's in balance with the bigger picture. Sometimes we're not lazy, we're just burnt out and overworked and we need rest. Sometimes the best thing to do is nothing. There's this underlying feeling that to be successful, we have to be busy and doing something all the time, that's what success looks like. It's not. Maybe you're acting lazy right now because because you're so not lazy all the other times. Working, commuting, cooking, cleaning, errands, exercise, taking care of other people, taking care of yourself. There comes a point where our body and our mind and our soul just says no. And it might come off as lazy, but it's really just a deep need for rest. So those are the 3 big reasons for what we call laziness. But what if those things don't apply in a certain situation? What if we feel like we actually are just being lazy? Sometimes we can put off what we know we need to do, especially like the little things like doing our laundry, doing the dishes, or going for a walk outside when we know we need it. Oftentimes I think the reason we get stuck and struggle to do things and then proceed to call ourselves lazy is because of our created perceptions of a certain activity. We've created negative associations of these actions in our mind. It's like how sometimes we totally work ourselves up in our head about something and make something seem so much harder and so much more difficult than it actually is. For example, let's say you have a big pile of dishes in the sink. Sometimes we will sit and think about those dishes for like 6+ hours instead of just doing it. We think, ugh, I need to do the dishes. I hate doing the dishes. It's so annoying. It's so boring. It's a waste of my time. But when we finally do get ourselves to do the dishes, it's actually not as hard or as boring as we thought it would be. But our negative perceptions drain us and make us not want to do anything. And what happens when we get totally drained? We need rest, and then we appear lazy, and then this cycle just continues. So what if we just started changing our thinking and started shifting these perceptions? Of course, this doesn't happen overnight, but when you find yourself resisting a certain activity and you know that it's not for one of the big 3 reasons that I mentioned, ask yourself, why am I making this harder than it has to be? How can I choose to think differently? How can I make things more fun? The whole point of this video is that laziness is so much more nuanced than we might think, and it can give us some really helpful clues as to what we might need, what we need to change, or what we might need to work past. So I encourage you to let go of this idea that you're lazy and start digging deeper. Please let me know if you like this video. I really hope that you got some value out of this and can take this info and apply it to your life. So if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps me out, and to subscribe if you want to see more good content like this. I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.